Now why it is in news? Why it is a current affair? See, it was in news in 2019, it was in news in 2020, it was in news in 2021. So either question related with bond price or bond yield, or on yield curve, or on operation twist. From any of these, and these are all money and banking topic, and you know money and banking is favorite of UPSC. You can expect a question. Okay, so we'll first see why. So in US, what is the situation? I'll explain it later on. Okay, in US, we are seeing an inverted yield curve. It's a yield curve, but it's an inverted. There are different types of yield curve is there. I'll explain it. Okay, so why it is in current affairs? Because in US, we are seeing an inverted yield curve. I'll explain what it is. In India, we are seeing a steep yield curve. So I will show you a figure, then you will understand what is this steep yield curve and inverted yield curve. Okay. So because of that, this, and what RBI is trying to do is, RBI is trying to flatten the yield curve. So these are the terms. So this, or sometimes this word will come, controlling the yield curve control. Controlling the yield curve. It is nothing but flattening it. Now this picture I will come back to this PPT. Once this picture, you just take this picture into your mind. Okay, everything is explained. You know what is yield curve. Now look into the x-axis. It's tenure. Okay, I told you it starts with it can start from anywhere, but here it is showing from 2 year. See, it is starting from 2 year till 30 year. But in India, it can go up to 40 year. Okay, now here it is yield in percentage. What is the rate of return in percentage? This is tenure in years. Now we'll take one by one. Okay, this one, this ash color, flat one. Okay, this is a flat ash color. This, see, you can see that almost a straight line. A flat yield curve is nothing but, see, if you see the shortest, this is the shortest tenure. This is the longest tenure. In the shortest tenure and the longest tenure of government securities or bond, the return or the yield is same, almost same. So what is a flat yield curve? The short term government securities, as well as I'm using the word government security, it can be bond also. Short term bond and long term bond, the rate of return is almost the same. That is flat yield curve. Now what is a normal, this is a normal yield curve. Normally, see, the yield curve, as the tenure increases, the yield also moves a bit higher. This is a normal yield curve. Normal, when the economy is in a normal growth, the yield curve will be like this. We want the yield curve. This is actually, an economy should have a normal yield curve. So in a normal yield curve, one feature is very important. See that as the tenure goes higher, the curve is also, the yield is also increasing slowly. In a normal case. So we know that what so. So one thing is clear in a normal yield curve. The higher dated government security will be having higher return or higher yield than the shorter one. In the case of normal yield curve, and the growth will be, the yield growth will be normal. Now what is this steep? The word itself, it's a steep curve. See, the curve is steeper. There will be a sudden increase, a steep increase in the, where it increases? In the yield. Increase is there in the yield only. Okay, and what is India is facing? India is facing a steep yield curve. So what this difference between the shortest and the longest yield is what is called a spread. The spread will be higher. Between a normal yield curve and a steep yield curve, the spread will be higher. Spread is the difference between the yield of highest tenure and the shortest tenure. Okay. Now the last one. Inverted. See the difference. What is happening in the case of inverted? In inverted, the shortest tenure, and see the shortest tenure and the longest tenure. Longest tenure is having lower return yield than the shortest tenure. This is happening in the case of US and other developed countries. Okay, so the long term, the rate of return is lower or negative. This is also called as negative yield compared to the shorter period. So in US, what is happening? Inverted yield curve. In India, we are having steep yield curve. Now, both US Federal Reserve and RBI, it's all about money supply. Na? They will try to flatten their yield. Now what they will do? They will try to, from here RBI will try to straighten it, flatten it. That is controlling the yield. So this is done through an operation called as Operation Twist. That's our next current affair topic. So in Operation Twist, what we will do? In Operation Twist, we will try to normalize this yield curve. So in order to normalize the yield curve, we will try to bring down the yield of the longer tenure, and we will try to increase the, so we are actually flattening it a bit. This one will increase a bit and this one will decrease a bit. This operation is what is called as twist. We are twisting it. Actually, it's based on a song. That's a very old song, Operation Twist. Okay, that's a very interesting song. If you search YouTube, you can see that twist like that. Okay, okay. So it was very famous during 60s. Okay, okay. So in 1960s only this US Federal Reserve used this Operation Twist. I'll discuss in detail. So everything is related with this concept only. Okay. So if a question comes on yield curve, how you have to answer is that you have to see the interest rate of, you have to see the yield of the longest mature bond as well as the shortest mature bond. Based on their differences, you will get to know, you will find out whether it is a inverted yield curve, whether it's a steep yield curve, whether it's a flat yield curve, or it is a normal yield curve. Okay, I will go back. And that's the current affair. So what the yield curve will do? It will plot the interest rate or the yield of bonds of, see, the credit amount is equal. Now, see, credit amount is equal. What is the differences in the case of maturity as well as interest rate? So we can say that yield curve is nothing but it's a graph you get by plotting the interest rates at which a single borrower take loans from the market for different time periods or for different maturity. We had explained it. Now, based on the slope of the, by looking into the slope, we have seen the slope. Okay, by looking into the slope of the yield curve, we can predict what will be the future interest rate. What will be the next year interest rate can be predicted based on the slope of the yield curve. As well as how the economic, see, now you know the interest rate is directly linked to economic activity. High, see, if the interest rate is lower, it's good for the businesses. Business people will take more loan and they will invest and the economy will become more active. If the interest rate is very high, loans will be lesser and it will affect the economic activity or the economic growth. So by looking into the slope of the yield curve, we can predict or we can have an idea about the future interest rate as well as the future economic activity. This is the benefit of the yield curve. Now, there are three main types of yield curve is there. We have seen four. Generally, there are three. One is a normal yield curve. Normal yield curve is an upward sloping yield curve. Then there is inverted yield curve, that is a downward sloping curve. And the third one is flat yield curve. Now, just for your understanding, okay, as of yesterday's data, as per the, you are just supposed to know, okay, it's not, they will not ask you. What you need to see, you are supposed to know what is the current, for repo rate is very important. You should know what is the repo rate. That is the RBI policy rate. You should know what is the RBI reverse repo rate. Okay, RBI repo rate is 4%. Remember, okay, it's very, very important, okay. RBI repo rate is 4%. Reverse repo is, you know how much? 3.35%. All these things happen. Normally there should be 25 basis point difference. So all happened because of this lockdown impact. Okay, now there is a 65 basis point difference is there between repo and reverse repo. Okay. Now our repo is RBI's lending rate, short-term lending rate. RBI lend to the banks, repo. Reverse repo is RBI is borrowing from the commercial banks. Okay. Now, so the yield has to be, now try to understand that the yield has to be above repo. Normally, the short-term yield has to be above repo rate. But due to this lockdown, 2020, everything changed. The yield even fallen below the repo as well as reverse repo. Okay, we'll discuss that. Okay, so anyway, so currently, what is the current status? What is the, see, now you can see that, okay, the economy from the third quarter onwards of this financial year, things started improving from October onwards. So October, November, December, January, February, March, the third quarter and fourth quarter is comparatively better. Okay, so now we are in March, end of March of 2021. So one good sign is that the 1 year repo rate, sorry, 1 year bond rate, government security rate, 1 year government of India borrowing rate or 1 year government security rate is 4.09%, which is higher than repo. It has to be. Means 1 year government borrowing rate has to be higher than repo rate, because then only our repo rate will have its validity. Because our repo is the RBI giving to bank for a short term. Now what is this? Government security, it is government borrowing. So government borrowing has to be higher than what RBI gives to the banks for a short term. And this is for a longer term. Okay. Now, so similarly, the current 10-year government borrowing rate is at, as of now, it is 6.13%. Now this is, here lies the problem. Okay. RBI don't want such a high, a 10-year government. RBI want to, repo is 4. RBI initially planned like this, okay. It should not go beyond 190 basis point. So in October-November period, it was trying to bring the 10-year government bond interest rate or the yield at 5.9. So to achieve that, RBI have performed many operations like open market operations, then this operation twist. It has used the forex reserve. Okay, what RBI have tried to do is that RBI have injected more liquidity in the economy. RBI have, so currently our economy is having more liquidity. So when there is more liquidity, the interest rate will come down. That is the logic. Okay, when you have more money than it is required. But unfortunately, more means in this current scenario, nobody is ready to take loan and bank is also unwilling to give loan. That's a different thing. So there is more money. So what RBI have done? RBI have injected more money in the economy. Through 3 methods that you are supposed to know. Through methods RBI have used it. Okay, one method is what RBI have done is, the 2 is more important. Okay, one is we discussed in the last class. Okay, using forex reserve. RBI purchase forex reserve. When RBI purchases forex reserve, what RBI is doing in return, when it purchases forex reserve, in return it is giving Indian rupee to the economy. So purchase of forex reserve results in injection of more liquidity. That is one way RBI is injecting liquidity. Second is through open market operation. RBI is purchasing government securities. What is open market operation? It's the operation performed by RBI. Open market operation is the operation performed by RBI in the open market. What RBI will do in the open market? It will either buy or sell government securities. We'll discuss in the money and bank class in detail, but just for your, if you have any doubt, okay. So what is open market operation? It is the buying and selling of government securities. So when RBI buy, I see it is independent. Either RBI will buy government securities or it will sell government securities. So when RBI buy government securities from the market, what it is doing? It is injecting liquidity. This is second thing. So through open market operation, it is injecting liquidity. Third is operation twist. which I'll discuss. So these are the three operations which RBI have done to inject liquidity. Operation Twist is our next topic. Okay, so RBI have made sufficient liquidity in the economy, and also RBI have said that our policy will be accommodative. We are not going to increase the repo rate. Accommodative means RBI will not increase the repo rate. Rather, depending upon the situation, it will either remain same or it will decrease it. So RBI's monetary policy stance is very clear. So in order to make the market participant confident, okay, what will be the future actions of RBI? But unfortunately, what happened in February? In February, every 2 months, RBI goes for bi-monthly monetary policy. In February, after the budget, and already the finance minister already announced in the next financial year, we are going to borrow huge. Government of India is going to borrow huge because of the huge fiscal deficit. So everybody was expecting in February monetary policy, RBI bi-monthly monetary policy, RBI will come with a timetable, like our timetable for open market operation. How the RBI is going to mobilize money for the government of India. But that has not been released by RBI in February. So in February, March, because of that, there have been continuous increase in the yield, 10-year bond yield. Okay, so RBI is trying many tricks to put it under control, but after 2 days, it is going out of control. Okay, so now it has reached, so RBI is not happy, but nothing RBI can do now. Okay, so the market is willing that this rate will go up to 6.25 by mid of April, like that. It's increasing slightly. Okay, so that's the reason. So you have to connect all those things. This figure we have discussed.